The Dragon Ball Z Budokai Tenkaichi series was my entire childhood, so you know I'm hyped for the release of Tenkaichi 4. However, the trailer doesn't give us much information, so let's shamelessly speculate on what I'd like to see in the game and what I hope isn't part of the game. Firstly, I love that we get to see updated graphics, and those graphics look really nice. You can see each and every blade of grass and rock formations on what I assume is Namek, and they're very pretty. The animation of Goku turning into Super Saiyan Blue looks beautiful, and if they manage to have this translate over to all key charges and power-ups, I'll be very happy. That's really all we get to see in the trailer, and the aspects we see seem very promising. But when discussing the parts we don't get to see, it literally means anything can happen because there's so much missing from the trailer. And this isn't the golden era of Dragon Ball Z games anymore, and companies try to monetize everything, so there are definitely some concerns I have going into Budokai Tenkaichi 4. Firstly is the roster. Budokai Tenkaichi had every single character you could possibly imagine and their mom jam-packed into it. Seriously, would anyone have minded if a pool wasn't in the game? The developers gave him so many other characters to us anyway, and it was great. With the new release coming soon, I'm a little concerned about how the game's gonna handle it. I really hope they give us all these characters from Dragon Ball, Z, GT, Super, and Dragon Ball without trying to sell them in DLC or microtransactions. In games like this, DLC in the form of characters and their stories is probably the easiest way to generate extra money. I'd be so pissed if they locked their major characters behind DLC. Usually the DLC is for minor characters, or maybe movie ones, but I'd still like to experience them all without having to pay extra. I'd much rather they try to turn alternate attires into microtransactions and ruin the full experience of the game. Speaking of full experience, I'd like the story mode to be a little bit different than what we normally get. Usually, in every game we just go through the story over and over again. That's one thing I loved about Xenoverse, was it put a twist on things that was refreshing. That being said, I'd like to see a separate Dragon History mode where we can play through the entire classic story with our characters, right? But I'd also like a different mode that takes us through a new and unique Dragon Ball story written just for our custom character. I'd love for them to be able to bring back the ability to create our own character just for this mode. And things like skill points and upgrading your character after battles would be great. I like how Dragon Ball Kakarot had this semi-open world type story mode, and I'd love to see that make a comeback in the story mode of this game if possible. When it comes to this Dragon History mode, I'd love to see everything from Dragon Ball all the way to Dragon Ball Super. The entire legacy of this franchise without having to pay extra. Another thing I'd like to see make a comeback is the fighting mechanics from Budokai Tenkaichi 3 or 2, depending on what you prefer, but I think they're very similar. To this day, I prefer the fighting in the game over pretty much any other anime game, period. It was so much ahead of its time, and there was so much attention to detail added. Completely destructible environments, the way the fighters' clothes get ripped off when they take damage, and even things like them talking crap to each other before and after. There was just so much the developers did that made it feel like there was love behind the game, and it was revolutionary at the time. And I really hope that all of that care and detail makes a return, plus even more care and detail. There's so much they could do additionally in a modern game. Honestly, I don't think they even have to touch the fighting of the game at all. Yeah, they should add in new animations and whatnot, but the actual fighting system, in my opinion, is immaculate. When it comes to fighting, I'd love the ability to play online. Playing random people online in one-on-one fights or even tournaments would be amazing. You know what, now that I'm thinking about it, if we could do combat with up to like 4 people instead of just 2, that would be super fun as well. With the way the camera and targeting system works in Budokai Tenkaichi 3, I think it's possible with a little bit of tweaks here and there. I honestly think Budokai Tenkaichi 4 has the ability to be the best Dragon Ball game of all time. They really could just keep the base game of Budokai Tenkaichi 3 with graphical improvements and super characters added, and people would be happy. Now the ball is in their court, and it's on them not to fumble it, which honestly is going to be pretty hard to do, so I trust the developers to make a good game. So how do you feel about the Dragon Ball Z Budokai Tenkaichi 4 and the other games in the series? Do you love them or do you hate them? And what would you like to see in the new game? Let me know in the comments below. If you made it this far, thank you for listening to an idiot rant. Please consider subscribing to support the channel. Also, if you have time, I usually live stream on weekdays around 8:30 p.m. Pacific time and on weekends whenever I wake up and pull myself together. The schedule can sometimes change based on if I'm working on a video like this one, as it does take some time to put together. Also, consider these videos if you like my work, and thank you for your time. Plot Armor Games, out.